Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar. I, Sayam Dhulia, PTC CREO, subject matter expert at iGetIt by Tata Technologies. This webinar is all about mastering assembly design with component interface in CREO Parametric 10.0. In this session, we will be discussing about comprehending component interface, then placing component interface, then receiving component interface, and at the last, either component interface. Firstly, in this topic of comprehending component interface, we will be discussing about how to define component interface and the types of component interface. The second topic is about placing component interface. In this topic, we will discuss how to define placing type of component interface and how to use placing component interface. This topic is about receiving component interface. In this topic, we will be discussing about how to define receiving type of component interface and how to use receiving component interface. Topic is about either component interface. In this topic, we will discuss how to define either type of component interface and how to use either component interface. So as you can see, I have one model ready with me, which is of toe jack. This is an assembly. Here you can see there are multiple screws assembled, and over here also multiple screws are assembled. These screws are assembled with a traditional method, like we call the screw and give some constraints to it, connection to it, and place it over the holes which will be over here. This is a traditional method which takes a lot of time during the assembly process. So to speed up this task, there's a command which is called as component interface. If you click on the component interface, one dialog box gets open where you can see there are three types of component interface: the placing, receiving, and either type of. The placing type of component interface is created on the component which are used to place the component. Over here, the screw is being placed in the assembly. So screw will act as a placing type of component interface. The next is receiving type of interface. The receiving type of interface is created in the assembly where you have to receive the component with the predefined constraints and the connections to it. Here, this small lid, this will act as a receiving type of component because we will assemble a screw on it. The either one. The either type of component interface is created on the component that can be used as a placing type of interface or receiving type of interface. Either of them. The component with either type of interface will have default placement interface. So let's start with placing type of interface. For that, open small screw. Small screw will act as a placing type of interface. So you can find component interface in model tab under the model intent group. Click on component interface, a dialog box pop up and you can select placing type of interface. I'll rename it as a placing for the future reference. Let's give some constraint to it. I'll select this surface with a coincident type of constraint. I'll apply one more constraint to it with this surface as a coincident and click on OK. Now you can see in the model tree, a footer group has been added under which the interface comes. Now this placing is as a actual default because right now only one type of component interface has been added. You can also edit it by clicking on edit definition in the mini toolbar. Now you can also change the type of constraint, or if you want to change the surface which you have picked earlier, you can also change it, or you can also rename the interface name. Right now I don't want to change. We can also give either type of component interface to this model. So for that, again click on component interface. From the component interface dialog box, select either, rename the interface as either, define the constraints to it. First I'll select the surface with the coincidence constraint. New constraint, I'll select the surface and I'll give some distance to it. Give an offset value as 3 units and click on OK. Now you can see for this length, the offset has been applied till here. Now the placing type of interface is acting as a default because there is a star mark we can observe over here. We can change it to this one. We can right click on either and set as default. Now whenever we will place this screw, it will automatically take either type of component interface as a default one. Right now I want placing as a default one, so I'll set placing as a default from the shortcut menu. We'll go back to assembly. I'll open small lid .prt. This small lid will act as a receiving type of interface. So to give the receiving type of component interface to it, I'll again click on component interface. From the dialog box of component interface, I'll select receiving. It will clear the default interface which has been applied to it. Click on yes. Rename the interface as receiving. Give some constraint to it. First, I'll select this surface of the hole. The coincident is applied automatically to it. For second constraint, I'll pick the surface with the coincidence constraint. Click on OK. Now this receiving type of component interface is only applied to this hole which is being selected. Now to give this type of component interface to all the holes, just right click on the receiving interface and select pattern command from the mini toolbar. This pattern command will automatically take the reference of the holes as the hole are created through pattern command. The reference has been applied. Click on OK. Now in the model tree, you can observe that the receiving type of interface has been applied to all the holes. So we'll go back to assembly. Over here, just suppress the assembly till here. Alright, I can show you the component interface. Now we just need to call the part small screw.prt. Now as for the small screw, we have set placing as a default component interface. Here we can see the placing has been applied as an default interface with the predefined constraint, the two set of coincidents. To assemble the screw on this small lid, we just need to click on this points. If I click on this point, it will directly place the screw. Right now, they are placing with the placing type of interface. Now, if I want to change for this one as an either, just we need to click on either. It will act as an either type of component interface, and the set of constraints will be applied as we have mentioned for the bolt with the either component interface. You can observe in the placement dialog box, which is being located over here. Similarly, we have to just click on these points and you will observe the screw is being placed and assembled. Now, if you want to change right now, like over here, the either type of component interface been applied. Now, if I want to make it as in placing, so I just need to click on this drop down and select placing type of interface. So it will act as in placing type of interface with the constraint of placing, like the coincident has been applied. Now click on OK. Now you can see in the front view, the placing has been done, the assembly has been created. You can see in the model tree for this small lid, there is a receiving type of interface, and for all the screw you can see under the footer there is an interface applied to it. For every screw it is there, you can observe. Now, if you want to give either type of component interface as an receiving type, so I'll just open this part separately. To give receiving type of component interface to this model, to this part, select on component interface. From the component interface dialog box, select either type and rename the interface as receiving 1. For our reference, we'll give some constraint to it. For this whole, I'll select this surface and with coincident, and new constraint as surface will be this and coincident. I'll click on OK. Now under the footer, you can see there is a receiving type of interface which is being applied to this hole only. To give this receiving type of interface to all the holes, select receiving 1, select pattern command from the mini toolbar. Similarly, it will take the reference of the hole which were created through pattern command. Just click on OK. Now in the model tree, you can observe under the footer that receiving type of interface have patterns and it has been applied to all the holes. Let's just regenerate and open this in assembly. Now this is acting as an either type of receiving interface. Now we can call the part small screw part. Here again the same procedure. You have to just click on the points and the placing of the part is done or the component is done. Just change either to check. Yes. Click on OK. Observe the model in front view orientation. You can see that these two are placed as a placing type of interface with another is been with either, because either type of interface was having offset value. For further for such fascinating concepts in PTC CREO, please visit our website www.myigated.com and dive into the wealth of knowledge and expand your understanding for not only PTC CREO, but we also offer a vast reservoir of knowledge across different CAD domains such as Siemens NX, Dassault System SolidWorks, Dassault System CATIA V5, Dassault System 3D Experience, Autodesk Inventor, and much more.